everyone, Butterfly Kayla here. Today we're going to do a video tutorial of my form set, the Sweet But Oh So Naughty, which you can see on the screen here. What you're going to need for this tutorial is any version of PSP and Animation Shop. Your tube of choice, I'm using the artwork of Elias. You can get his tubes at PSP Tubes Emporium. Your texture of choice, which I find most of my textures at DeviantArt. Your kit of choice, I'm using Cupid Girl from Addictive Pleasures. Your fonts of choice, I used 3 Boris Black Blocks, Love Light, and Bank Gothic. The animation I've supplied below. Once you've got all that, then we can go ahead and get started. What I like to do is open up my PSP, and I always open my tube first, just so it's always in there. We're going to create a new canvas, so go to File, New, 650 by 250, a raster background, transparent. Click OK. On your first layer, we're going to flood fill with the color, and it's going to be F591C0. Okay. And then we're going to create a new raster layer, and we're going to title that Texture. Click OK. Go ahead and open your texture. Copy it. Go back. Select all. Edit. And paste into selection. Once that's done, you can deselect. Change that layer, the texture layer, to Luminance Legacy. And that's done. We're going to change the name of our bottom layer. We're going to rename it to Background. Okay, after you do that, we want to go over and take a copy of the close-up of your tube. Go ahead and paste that. Move it to the right side of your template. Duplicate that when you have it where you want it. Image, mirror. Once it's mirrored, you go to merge down. You want to select all on the background layer. Go back to your tube layer and invert and hit the delete key on your keyboard to get rid of all that extra tube that we don't want on there. Go ahead and deselect. I'm going to duplicate that tube layer, adjust, blur, the Gaussian blur, radius of 3. Click OK. To make it kind of blurry. After that, you want to change the tube layer to screen. Move down to your original tube layer and change that to Luminance Legacy, and the percentage to about 24%, just so it's kind of lightly there in the shadow. Let's go ahead and rename those 2 layers. We will put Close Up, Close Up 1, and we'll rename this one Close Up 1, Close Up 2. Alright, when you have that done, you want to go back to your tube layer. You want to copy the full tube, paste it, position it to the right a little bit, and once you have it positioned where you'd like it, duplicate the layer, image, and mirror. You want to merge those 2 layers together again. And what we want to do is we want to select our background layer again, go back there, invert, and hit the delete key on your keyboard to get rid of the extra around the edges that we don't need. Duplicate your tube layer, adjust, and we're going to go, we're going to go to blur, the Gaussian blur, radius 3. We're going to change that to screen again. Go to the original layer, and you want to change the opacity to about 50. So it's going to look like this. Let's rename those layers. We're just going to put Tube 1 and Tube 2. Alright, now we want to go back to your tube and copy the close-up again and paste it. Position it kind of where you want it. Put mine right about there. I'm going to rename it ahead of time now. We're going to name it Main Close-Up. We're going to duplicate that layer, adjust, blur, the Gaussian blur, radius 3, and change the layout to soft light. Okay, once you do that, the next step is to take your text tool with your choice of font. This is where I used the Boris. So I'm going to go find my Boris, and it was Boris Black Blocks, and I used it at 72 point. It doesn't matter what color because we're not going to see it. Type out your word. I use the word sweet in all caps. Apply it. And then you want to take your pick tool and go ahead and move that to about where you want it, and you can play with it and stretch it, which is what I do, until you get it just where you want it. Just a little bit smaller. Once you get it where you want it, rasterize the layer, duplicate, and move it over. You can see it's a little bit bigger than I wanted, so we can edit this layer a little bit. Just change it a little bit like that. You can edit both layers if you want to go back, but for the purposes right now, I'm just going to edit the one and shrink it up. So then we want to merge those two together. So you merge down. Okay, the next thing we want to do is go to your close-up one layer and duplicate it. Move it above the text layer we just made. Change it back to 100% and normal. And then you want to go to your tube one layer, duplicate it, and move it above, and change it back to 100% as well. You're going to merge those two down so that the tube one and the close-up one are together. We're going to rename this Text 1. Now you want to go back to our original text layer. You're going to select all, float, and then defloat it. Go back to our new text 1 layer, invert, and you want to delete the excess tubes around the edges so that it looks like this, and all you can see is the close-ups inside the letters. Go ahead and deselect. Now we want to duplicate the text 1 layer. We're going to rename that one text 2. And you want to change that one to screen. And you want to change the one below it to overlay. And you want to put it at about the screen layer at about 89%. Just so that it's a little bit brighter. Now you can't really see it right now, but we're going to fix that. Go back to the original text layer, select all, float and defloat. Go to selections, modify, expand. We're going to expand by 2. You want to create a new raster layer, and you're going to call this border 1. Okay, we want to flood fill the border 1 with FBC9E1. It's just a really light pink. Let me just flood fill it.